The concept of paradise is generally portrayed as the pinnacle of human achievement, a place of absolute happiness where suffering is abolished, where every desire is fulfilled, and where time, as we know it, ceases to exist. However, when we take a closer look and approach this idea more deeply, paradise can reveal itself to be far more complex than it seems. What does it truly mean to live in a state of unchanging perfection? Could it be that paradise, instead of being a blessing, is a subtle form of eternal imprisonment? To begin unpacking this question, we must examine the concept of eternal perfection. Perfection, by definition, implies the absence of need for change or improvement. At first glance, this seems ideal, but doesn't the absence of change inherently bring stagnation? Human beings find meaning in the process of evolving, learning, and overcoming challenges. We are shaped by adversity, by the contrast between joy and pain. By eliminating suffering and imperfection, paradise also eliminates the possibility of growth. And what are we without the constant transformation? In a perfect existence, where everything is in harmony and there is no loss or pain, what is left to strive for? The lack of change, from a philosophical perspective, could be considered a form of spiritual death. Human beings are defined by their ability to reinvent themselves in the face of adversity. Paradise, in this sense, wouldn't be a place of fulfillment, but one of existential paralysis, where the absence of challenges strips away the very essence of life. Evolution. This reflection leads us to the unsettling idea of the monotony of eternity. To think of paradise as a place where happiness is infinite and all needs are eternally satisfied seems attractive at first. But what happens to human experience when this satisfaction becomes constant? Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, with his theory of eternal recurrence, challenges us to reflect on the possibility of living the same life repeatedly. In paradise, where conflict and pain disappear, life transforms into a monotonous repetition of a perfect state. Happiness, without contrast, loses its brilliance. Just as sunlight loses its impact without the darkness of night, joy without the possibility of loss becomes worthless. In paradise, the absence of challenges and adversities prevents us from appreciating the true depth of happiness. After all, what is happiness but the result of overcoming difficulties? In paradise's broken cycle, joy loses its essence. Another point that arises from this reflection is the immutability of paradise. The eternal peace and stability often described in religious narratives can, from another angle, be seen as a prison. Philosopher Henri Bergson argued that time is the engine of life and that without the passage of moments, there is no genuine life. In a paradise where nothing can be altered, where everything is eternally perfect, time loses its meaning. Immutable eternity could become a nightmare of immobility, where the soul finds itself trapped, unable to evolve or move toward new goals. This prison of immutability is not just a matter of boredom but an existential crisis. Without the flow of time, without the movement of past, present, and future, what remains to be lived? The present, in paradise, extends indefinitely without the expectation of change. And this, instead of being liberating, can become the deepest imprisonment of all. This idea of immobility also connects to the dissolution of individuality into the divine whole, another characteristic present in many visions of paradise. Many religious traditions describe paradise as a place where the soul merges with the divine, where the self dissolves into the whole. However, what happens to our identity in this process? If we lose the I, what remains of us? Our individuality, the sense of being unique, is the foundation of our experiences. It's what allows us to create, love, and choose. Without this individuality, we would no longer be ourselves. Arthur Schopenhauer, in exploring humanity's desire to escape suffering, warns that the dissolution of the self can be dangerous. Paradise, in promising this fusion with the whole, may be promising the destruction of everything that makes us unique. After all, if we lose our individuality, can we still say we are living in paradise? Or have we merely become a fraction of a greater existence without personality? Moreover, we arrive at the unsettling aspect of the burden of immortality. The promise of eternal life may seem tempting, but when analyzed deeply, immortality may reveal itself to be an unbearable burden. The finitude of life, the fact that we know our time is limited, gives value to each moment. Albert Camus, in his Philosophy of the Absurd, argues that it is precisely our mortality that gives meaning to existence. In paradise, where immortality is the norm, this urgency disappears. If we have infinite time, what would motivate us to seek meaning or purpose? Immortality, instead of a gift, may become a curse. Eternity would stretch out before us, not as a promise of happiness, but as an abyss of indifference, where time becomes irrelevant and our actions lose their weight. The prospect of living forever could transform eternity into an endless prison, where what should be pleasurable turns into boredom and emptiness. Another crucial point that arises from this discussion is the loss of free will. In paradise, where all needs are met, where there is no pain or challenge, there is also the absence of meaningful choices. Free will only exists in a context where there are alternatives, where we can make mistakes, where risk is present. Without dilemmas or suffering, would we still be truly free? Or would we be merely living a predetermined existence, without the ability to shape our own destiny? Free will is what defines us as moral beings, capable of making decisions and facing the consequences of our choices. In paradise, where choice becomes irrelevant, where there is no conflict, we would be nothing more than puppets in a theater of perfection, devoid of the autonomy that defines us as human beings. Finally, it is important to reflect on the escapism that the concept of paradise can represent. The idea of a place without suffering, where everything is perfect, can be a flight from reality. By seeking paradise, we are, in a way, fleeing from the complexity, pain, and challenges that life imposes on us. But would an existence without suffering, without adversity, still be meaningful? Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard argued that it is in anguish that we find our true freedom. By fleeing from this anguish, by trying to escape reality, we lose the opportunity to live authentically and fully. Paradise, in this sense, can be a form of renunciation of life, an abdication of what truly makes us human. The ability to face and overcome the adversities of existence. In the end, paradise, far from being the ideal destination, may be an existential trap. By eliminating suffering, imperfection, and finitude, we also eliminate what gives meaning to our existence. Paradise, after all, may be a place where we lose our humanity, where we cease to be individuals, and where eternity becomes an unbearable burden. Perhaps the true paradise is not a place of perfection, but a place where imperfection is embraced, where pain and joy coexist, and where time drives us to live fully and meaningfully.